So we have Nancy Marzulli here. Nancy, thank you for joining us, and just tell us. Okay, I know that you met Marilyn Manson, and you call him Brian Warner. You met him when he was in community college. You were the editor of a community college newspaper, and he applied for a job there. Tell us, like, what was your first impression of him? The first day that you met him, what was that interaction like, and what did he do at your paper?
The first time I met Brian Warner, he walked into our newsroom wearing a pair of brown corduroy pants and a white surfer t-shirt and asked me, I want to write entertainment. I said, sure, no problem. And maybe a month or two later, they made Brian my assistant, which was great. That gave him an opportunity to have his own voice on his own page. There were 2 pages of entertainment. So, let him write his own, whatever copy he wanted, whatever he wanted to do, he had free reign. He did that for a short while because he was taking a theater class at the same time with Brian Tatunic, who was the first bassist, Olivia Newton-Bundy, and my girlfriend, Robin Rail. The 3 of them were in the theater class together. And eventually, Brian would come to the newsroom and show me this piece of paper. And I looked at the paper, and there were 2 words on the paper, Marilyn Manson. And I what's that? That's the name of my new band. Okay. And I did get to read some of his original stories that he had wrote that when he tried to have them published, they refused. I was the first person that allowed him to become published, which he never forgot, which was kind.
You were so you said you were the first person that allowed him to be published. What were some of his stories like that they did not want to publish? What were some of his interests? What were some of the things he would write about?
Pages upon pages. They were like stories. I didn't really read them, to be honest. It is in the book Long Hard Road Out of Hell, though. I think he put some of the excerpts of those stories, long, fictitious stories, like for a magazine, like 500 word, whatever it was, but
So
they did.
You're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that he wrote a number of these fictional stories, tried to get them published, couldn't get them
Correct.
published. He ended up taking them and adapting them for his autobiography, The Long Hard Road Out of Hell. Is that what you're saying?
There's excerpts of those stories. And like I say, he was, like let down that nobody wanted to publish his stories. They were like fictional, I think. But like I say, he wanted to write journalism. South Florida was booming in '89. We had Woody's on the Beach. Woody from the Rolling Stones, Ron Wood, had opened up a club, and he excelled, highly intelligent, well-spoken, quiet, shy. You couldn't get a word out of him. He's the quiet guy. Yeah,
Really?
definitely. Nothing like his persona.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So, a couple of things. First of all, what did you think of the name Marilyn Manson when you saw it? What was your reaction to it?
I didn't know what to think.
Yeah.
I did attend, though, the first backyard concert, which was at one of our classmates from the newspapers in his backyard. And that was the first time I heard songs from Portrait of American Family, his first CD. When I went back the next day, our advisor, Jerry, said, well, what did you think? And I said, Jerry, I'm an entertainment journalist. All I remember is burning the witches, don't take time to sew your stitches. I said, I don't know what that was, Jerry. Okay? I have no idea, but no.
It wasn't he definitely wasn't to everyone's taste, that's for sure. But what I was going to ask, so you said that he was very quiet, very shy. So, the persona and what a lot of people think of him is that he's this very aggressive. Did you ever see anything like that in him?
The only time that I did see anything like that was that night at that backyard concert. I don't know what had upset him or why, but he was like in this car, like screaming and flailing. And I walked over and I said, get out of the car, I'll drive you home. And he said, no, I'm going to stay. So stay. And that's the only time I ever saw him lose control. You know,
Oh, but he wasn't, but not aggressive toward anybody else or hurting
no,
anything. Okay, yeah.
absolutely not. Never. He would
So,
bring his little girlfriends into the newsroom and I'm the griller. What sign are you? Oh, you're Cancer? Well, he's Capricorn. I don't know if you'll get along. I was more of a mother figure to him. I was 5 years older. I'll always be 5 years older. But you
I
know,
know. Yeah.
yeah, he was a good kid, a boy from Ohio.
Well, so when you would see him, you said that you sometimes you would meet some of his little girlfriends, I think, as you put it, his girlfriends. Did you ever observe any kind of like weird dynamics or scary dynamics or anything like some of these women now are alleging? Did you recognize that person?
Absolutely not. He was quiet. He was reserved. Uh, he was a young boy, 19 years old. I knew him from 19 to 22,
Hmm.
89 to 92. I had to go back into one of my diaries, March 6th of 92. My little cousin came in town and he was playing. First time I had ever seen him in a club play. And my girlfriend's friend was scared to death. I introduced my cousin to the father when the father was walking through the audience and to Brian when he got off stage. So a lot of people in my life have met him as Brian Warner with me, like that 92. He was just starting out. It wasn't that was before the Louisiana Trent Reznor
Oh,
tour. That was way before that 9 inch opening for 9 Inch Nails. But I
right.
did see him right before he left for Louisiana. And, I was at a club, and when I was leaving, there he was sitting on this brick, uh, wall. And I walked by and I thought, that's kind of cunty of me. I should stop and say hello. Who am I? I'm no better. So I walked back and I said, do you mind if I sit down? Here, I'm asking my friend, do you mind if I sit down? That's fine. And he recalled like I had left to go to college someplace else and I came back. And he was genuinely interested in what happened in South Carolina, And then he said to me, I'm leaving to go on tour with 9 Inch Nails. Wow, that's great. Never followed him until 2003, the grotesque burlesque tour. I got to see that as a fan. I went, I bought a ticket, I sat alone. I looked at that stage with those speakers. I turned around and looked at the audience, and I saw all those kids in the front just clamoring for him. And I cried. I said, and I didn't cry because I felt bad. I cried because I said he really made it.
Mm.
I didn't, it didn't register until then that he really had made it. Until my dad was in Bologna with the mayor of Bologna, and he had a daughter. I don't know how old the daughter was. And my father said, oh, you know Bruce Springsteen. And the little girl said, no, but I know Marilyn Manson. My father knew what our relationship was and
Hmm.
knew that, you know, uh, well, I'll go back to the newsroom. One time I was on the phone with my father and I let Brian talk. He says, I want to ask your dad. Fine, here's my dad. How do I break into show business? He asked my dad. My dad gave him one piece of advice: be original. And I feel he really capitalized on that originality at that time. There wasn't a big goth scene. I think that kind of came along with him, or those people just, you know, that
So, so did you, okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you, did you see when you did know him when he was at the community college working for you, did you see any promise of greatness or future success? Like, would you have thought, oh, this guy is going to make it, or not? Not really. It was a surprise.
I guess the music wasn't really my type of music.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking portrait. I'm not talking mechanical animals or Hollywood until
You
I saw that, until I went to that concert in '03, and I realized, although in 1990, when I was in college in South Carolina, one day I was watching TV and there was Phil Donahue. And who was on Phil Donahue? I
right.
called
That
I called
infamous,
our
infamous.
advisor and I said, Jesus Christ, Jerry, Brian's on Donahue, you know. So, I mean, right then I thought, okay. But like I say, not until 2003, that Golden Grotesque Burlesque, I didn't realize the magnitude. I did go in, I was selling newspaper advertising, and the daughter had this gigantic poster on her wall. Who was it? Brian Warner. And I
Uh,
went, you like that guy? And she, oh, we love him. I said, he was my assistant in college. Oh my God. Then I became, oh, Dad, what was he like? They always ask the same thing. What is he really like? He's a
mm,
normal person. He doesn't
mhm.
wear his makeup when he goes to bed. He wears normal clothes. He eats normal food. He doesn't eat the heads of a chicken. I mean,
Well,
it,
so the one of the things that people have talked about a lot is the autobiography, a lot of fiction in that autobiography. Is that what you would say, or what are your feelings on that?
I read it the day it came out. I went and bought it to see if he had mentioned me in the book. And when I came to yeah, when I came to chapters 4 through 8, there's my name, Psycho Nancy. Psycho Nancy. That if you read the first page, he says I've used people's names for other people. So his fans immediately are, you're Psycho Nancy. No, I'm not. That was Heather. He had a girlfriend named Heather that he used my name. And that's fine. I don't mind being Psycho Nancy.
Was he close to his parents? Was that your impression?
Yes, I would
Yeah.
say absolutely. And both of them, you know, the
Mhm.
mother adored him. The father, he was selling furniture, Levitt's. I think it was Levitt's. And he would, like he said, he would start his board meetings discussing Brian's latest song or the album, or so proud parents, only child, like I was. So we had a lot of similarities. Well,
Was was he close
sort of.
when he was working with you at the paper and he was taking classes? And then he was also trying to get this band off the ground. So he must have been very busy. Sounds like.
I think that all really came about through his theater. He took a theater class with the first bassist, Brian Tatunic, also known as Olivia Newton-Bundy. He performed 2 shows, the first 2 shows. So I always give him that credit, the
Hmm.
original bassist. Then there was Brad Gidget Geen, which Brian loved Brad. He emulated Brad's cool. Brad had some kind of would draw you right in, and you just loved Brad. And
Really?
Brian really loved Brad.
Wow.
And
So that's interesting. You said
emulated him. Yeah,
you
no,
knew
and
originals.
from the clothing, the short cut off shorts with the striped panty, leggings, that's Brad. The lunchbox, that's Brad.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then he adopted it in a loving way, and even to the end, when Brad was almost ready to die, Brian paid for his rehab, which was kind. He doesn't have to pay for anybody's rehab. It didn't work, but that's how. I think he was really disappointed because at that time Brad was a drug addict and Brian wasn't. Brian
Hmm.
didn't even smoke. Brian didn't, nothing. There was nothing out of the ordinary, and I think that really hurt him. And that's why they, let Brad go. But then in the end, there he was, the true friend, trying to help his buddy.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's something that, as I have over the past year and a half investigated Marilyn Manson and talked to people who know him, really know him, and have known him through the years, and that's one thing that keeps coming up. People saying that he's not only is he actually a really nice guy, but he can be very generous and looks out for his friends. And so the fact that he paid for Brad's rehab, even though, like you said, it didn't end up working, but he paid for that. I've been hearing a lot of stories like that from people.
Yes, very. He doesn't forget. I'll say that. In '04, I went to Orlando. Someone drove me to Orlando for that uh, concert, and I had gotten a backstage pass. And he was genuine and thanked me, in front of all of the fans that were in that room. She gave me my first job, and
Oh,
he,
he
he
acknowledged you at a concert?
at yeah backstage, and when he said she gave me my first job, there was silence, and he says, "No, not a job, a writing job," and we all laughed.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's
Um,
okay.
so I'm curious, what year was that concert where he acknowledged you?
2004, Against All Goths was
Like, oh
that was
gosh.
the name of the tour.
And so, okay, so I'm curious, what was that interaction like? Because you hadn't seen him, I guess, in years, and this you hadn't
Correct.
seen him since he had become this big superstar. So, what was that like? What did you talk about, or what did he say?
I sat down on the couch with him, and I sat a distance away from him, and he immediately sat moved right next to me, and we like personally talked, like to each other. First thing I said to him was, "I'm so proud of you." I am. I'm proud of what he became and who he is. He deserves all of the recognition, whether it's good or it's bad. Make sure you spell his name right. Bad publicity is good publicity. Spell the name right.
I think that it's so sweet that he acknowledged you like that, and that's something that I've heard from people is that he doesn't forget his friends. Now, do you have any like outrageous or crazy memories of him when he was working for you? Anything that jumps out?
We in our creative writing class, we took a creative writing class. One of the assignments, I don't know what it was, but we made misfortune cookies, like fortune cookies, but misfortune. So when they'd open it, their thing was, "You're going to die," or "You're going to, have your legs cut off." And the girl, we would hand them out, and they'd open it and they'd scream, "You're the devil!" And they'd run away. It wasn't the
I love that.
devil. We were just having some fun.
Right.
Your arm is going to fall off when you read this. What? It was a
That's
joke, but
that's a great idea.
creative. Who's done misfortune cookies? Nobody I know.
That was
Brian
the early
Warner.
sign. I guess that was the early sign of his greatness there. He had his genius, misfortune cookies. Now I like that. That's funny. So, Nancy, is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered?
His fans have to remember he's a normal person. When he steps on that stage, he becomes Marilyn Manson. Whereas you would think, I think his fans believe that he's Marilyn Manson 24/7. I don't know. Does he believe he's Marilyn Manson 24/7? I don't know. I don't think so. I think he's a normal person, just like we are, to be honest. I think it's just the persona.
I guess the last thing I wanted to ask you, I know that you knew him a long time ago and that you're not privy to the ins and outs of his romantic life, but I'm curious
Correct.
when you did hear the allegations, what was your immediate thought and kind of what are you feeling now? What are you thinking about it now?
I didn't believe it at all. I mean, only because that's not the kind of person he was.
Well, Nancy, I thank you so much for joining us. It's been really interesting, and I know that a lot of people will get a kick out of this, and will find some value in what you had to say.
Thanks, Colonel.
And to everybody, check out my videos. I have done tons of videos in the Marilyn Manson case. I just put out a couple recently on the latest documents to drop in the lawsuit. There's some really jaw-dropping stuff in Marilyn Manson's recent court filings against Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore. So check that out. Check out my channel, like and subscribe. Hit me up on PayPal and Patreon if you want to tip me, and we will see you later. Bye bye.